Great. So I'm Kalinda, and it's such a pleasure to meet you, David. Today I'm doing an interview with David Wayte, right?
Yep, correct.
Excellent. And we've never formally met in person, and it is my honor to meet you today, David. But the reason I really wanted to connect with you is because I actually teach students and I get kind of fascinated in different ways that they want to learn.
hmm
And a lot of them don't have the opportunity to meet the people like you that have developed and shared their skills over time. And I think that that's something that I really want to be able to share with them. So thanks so much for doing this interview with me today. I so appreciate it. And before we get started, can you tell us where you're actually located?
Okay, so I am located in England,
Beautiful.
and if you imagine like a map of England, if you were to put a pin right in the centre, that's where I am. So I'm fairly close to Nottingham, good old Robin Hood country.
Hey,
So that's basically where I am.
beautiful. And so, David, what actually got you into reflexology?
Oh my goodness, I wasn't expecting that question.
Mhm.
Um, this is all my ex-wife's fault.
Oh,
Um, I love the way that your face just changed then. The way that was
it's
just
because
such
I
a
blame somebody for me getting into reflexology too, but since then I've changed it to credit.
okay. So indeed, it is a credit to her actually. So I used to be a sales manager for a packaging company. I'm an environmentalist. I hate landfill, and that's what I was selling. And then I met this um, wonderful person that I fell in love with,
Yeah.
and she was an aromatherapist. Now, I didn't even know that complementary therapies existed when I met her.
Okay.
But I'm knocking on people's doors saying, please, will you buy my stuff? And it's bad for the environment, but you need it, so it'd send your goods out. And as with all salespeople, you very unpolitely get told, go away, we're not interested. She had got people knocking on her door saying, please, will you make us feel better? And I'm thinking, do you know what? She's got it right. She's doing something ethical, she's doing something good, and she was earning, very good money for it. And
Oh,
I thought, oh, when we kind of got serious and we knew that we were going to get married, I thought, I wonder if there's something that I could do that would complement what she was doing. And I wanted to find a therapy that I could explain. I wanted to find something that had got facts behind it.
yeah.
And also something that with her contraindications, they weren't contraindications for whatever I was going to learn. And reflexology fitted the boat perfectly. And
Perfect.
the other thing is, as a man, there isn't that female fear of safer massage, having to get undressed, that sort of thing. It's not that sort of up close and personal therapy because the person's lying down. That they're sort of like 4 or 5 foot away from you because you're at their feet and their head is that far distance. So it wasn't an issue at all. Me being a man in what in the UK is very much a female dominated industry. So yeah, that was how I got into it, and I've not looked back since. It's just been brilliant.
Excellent. And so, who was your teacher?
Oh gosh, I've had quite a few.
Yes, I
the
know.
the guy that taught me was a guy called Graham Sturmey. Um, what he taught was great, but he wasn't actually very good at putting it across.
Okay.
So I then learnt under somebody called Loretta Cosworth, who had
Oh,
personally been trained by Dwight Byers.
hey.
And so I basically did my diploma course, got qualified with Graham, but then decided, you know what, I'm going to do the whole thing all over again and actually really learn it. So Loretta trained me. She was wonderful. She used to call me her reflexology mum. And she was a strict woman, really strict. I mean, you didn't mess around in her classes at all. But
Mhm.
she'd also got that little spark in her eye, and you knew that she, got a cracking sense of humor, and we just hit it off. We really, really did. So I
Oh,
did further training with her. Then I also trained with Moshe Krutchik as well. So yeah, that's my training. But training never stops.
no.
I think that's one thing, being for is this just for your students, or is this going out wider than your students? I don't know.
Well, I've got a YouTube channel and I've got a
Oh,
couple of
excellent.
Facebook groups and I got
Lovely.
students too. So I
Excellent. Right,
I
right.
might put it
Okay.
anywhere. Anywhere that you
So
tell me not to, I will hold
no,
it
no,
back.
no, no.
But other than that,
You put it anywhere you like.
okay.
But the thing that I would say is it doesn't matter how long you've been doing this job for.
No,
It doesn't matter, how much you think you know. There's always more. And so I would
100%.
say learning never ever stops.
No,
So I still enjoy doing continual education for myself. I want to carry
100%.
on learning. So
Yeah,
I thoroughly enjoy it. And, everybody should develop and evolve continuously.
I agree. And you did mention Dwight Byers. Did you ever have the chance to meet him?
Sadly not, no.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it's COVID's fault. I
Really?
was booked to be doing a couple of dates, one in Texas, and the other one in Florida.
Hmm.
And while I was over, my plan was I was going to pop over to see Dwight, because I was actually going to be in Tampa, which is where he lives,
Yeah,
or rather just outside. And so I thought I'd take the opportunity. But then, of course, life happens, and death is part of life, isn't it? So
hmm,
sadly, that was not to be.
yeah. I had the pleasure of meeting him in 2010.
Oh,
I
lucky
I
you.
I took his advanced course and you should have seen his fingers fly. Oh,
Mm,
takes
mm,
reflexology to a whole new level for sure. I love
yeah,
that.
I can
But
believe it.
the one thing that I did learn from Dwight when I did get to learn from him was he was a bottom liner. You know what I mean? Like he didn't flow any fluff at all.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
And he was very passionate about what he did,
Hmm.
but he also helped people get out of their heads. You know what I mean? Like, have you ever, you teach reflexology now, right?
Indeed. Yeah.
And so what is it that you teach?
So what I teach both practitioners diploma. So we take people
Yeah,
from no knowledge to getting qualified. Uh, then I also teach finger-free reflexology,
I
as
love that.
that's what you know me for, I think.
Yeah.
And I also teach palliative reflexology as well. So it's how to adapt that treatment for people who are at the sort of the end stage of an illness, whether it be cancer, whatever. Yeah.
Yeah. Excellent. And so the one thing that Dwight was really good at was getting people out of their heads and into their heart using facts. So you focus on um, the right places to press,
Hmm.
but just watch it. His fingers must have been this long.
Oh,
Just a fly. It was cool. It was cool. I don't
uh,
know. I don't have the videos anymore. I would send them to you, David. He was great, but he does have a grandson that's still in Petersburg, Florida, as well.
okay.
I think his name's Peter. But yeah, and so all right, your ex-wife was an aromatherapist,
Yep,
and then you got into reflexology.
I did.
And what was the initial stages? Do you remember how long have you been doing it for? First, I should ask you that.
Oh my days. I've been doing it for 22 years now.
Oh, okay. And
So
so,
yeah, I'm just kind of, just getting started.
yeah, it's first day at the rodeo. That's what I'd say. And so, okay, back then, 22
Yes.
years ago, you're just
Yeah.
starting out. Um, and you've got 22 years of experience. Obviously, you went on to do other things. We're going to get into that in a little bit. But my question to you, David, is really what grabbed onto your heart and held on to keep you going for 22 years?
Well, at first I had no intention of teaching at all.
No,
I was just going to be a reflex. I said just going to be a reflex. That's not really the right way of saying it, is it? Because that
it
sounds like it's
is.
belittling it. But all I wanted to do was treat people, make them feel better.
Yeah.
That's the was the point of it. And then accidentally, I got into teaching.
Oops.
It was a local college that asked if I could um, help them out because they'd got a class, but they'd got no teacher. And I'm going, but I don't teach. And they said, don't worry, we will train you to teach and you can, we'll pay you while you're learning. It's like, oh, well, I can't really say no to that. So it all happened by accident. But, it's a case of whatever you believe in, God, the universe, whatever, stuff happens for a reason, doesn't it?
It absolutely
And
is. I agree.
this has been the best thing because what keeps me going is actually the stories that I hear from my graduates now that they are doing what they're doing. And what I used to also teach massage, and one of the stories that sticks into my mind was actually an ex-massage student. She phoned me up and she says, "Guess where I am?" I says, "I've got no idea." And she says, "I'm at the Stella Artois Tennis Championships." I says, "Oh, who are you watching?" And she said, "No, no, no." She says, "I'm there working." She says, "I'm one of the sports massage therapists." I says, "Oh, great." She says, and this will tell you how long ago it was. She says, "I'm working on Tim Henman this afternoon." I don't know whether that name rings any bells in Canada or not, but he was England's number one at the time. And then she said, "And I've got some Scots guy afterwards, some young bloke." It was Andrew Murray, wasn't it? And so she was massaging these people, and I had taught her, and I'm thinking, that'll do me. That is my claim to fame.
That's good. And
So
so,
it's the big picture for me. It's
yeah,
people that come to my classes, and as with all classes, we kind of do like a little round the class introduction. They say who they are, why they want to do the course, and some of these ladies that I teach, they've got the boss from hell. They've got the most awful job, and to me, my job isn't just to teach them reflexology, it's to be able to enable them to achieve their dream, their
yeah,
passion of being able to set themselves up in business
yeah.
and actually have a job that they love and enjoy. And that's me. That's what I love doing.
I love that, David. I
So it's the
absolutely
bigger
love that.
picture. It's the bigger picture.
It is the bigger picture. So, okay, so then you were just a reflexologist, which is okay. I get that. And then you at what okay, so then you got contracted by the college to go and
Hmm.
teach. So they taught you how to teach, and then you were
Yeah.
teaching basic reflexology then, correct?
Yes. Yeah. Oh gosh. Yes. Yes.
Okay. And so then what happened next? How did the other courses come to be?
Oh, so the guy that taught me, Graham Sturmey, he then contacted me, said, would I like to teach for him? So I did that. His school actually folded
Okay.
midway through a course. And because we teach regulated qualifications here, the
Oh,
qualification organization contacted me and they said, you're halfway through teaching these students. Can you take them on and start your own school? So that's basically what happened. So I started Jubilee College. Things just evolved as they do. But then there was the occasion that I used to teach fertility reflexology as a
yeah.
continuing education. And people would come up to me and they'd say, David, my fingers and my thumbs are aching after a few treatments.
Yeah.
Can you just check that I'm doing things right? So I had a little look, see what they were doing. They probably weren't doing it quite the way that I had been taught to do it. So I would correct them
Yeah.
and they would go away happy. The bottom of my world kind of fell out from under my feet when one of my graduates then came up to me on one of my postgraduate courses and said, David, after a few treatments, my fingers and thumbs are aching. And I checked what they were doing. They were doing it perfectly. And I'm thinking, oh, so it's not just bad technique. There's got to be something more. And so that then made me start to investigate repetitive stress injury. And I found out that if you just keep on doing this
Oh,
or
that's
keep on doing
retirement.
that, yeah, let's experiment. Yeah.
That's
If you keep,
retirement.
yeah. And if you keep doing the same thing again and again and again, and in fact, it doesn't matter what you do again and again and again, it's the repetitive movement that
Yeah.
will then cause a strain. And so I thought, if I can create a way of doing reflexology that actually does not involve articulating joints, you can't get a repetitive strain injury. So I researched and researched, and all of a sudden had this brainwave. They say that all great ideas are 99%, no, 1% inspiration and 99% perspiration. And this was just so true, because I suddenly thought, I wonder if I could use this. And also I was thinking, I wonder if I'm deformed. Does everybody have a knobbly bit sticking up like that? Look at that, Kalinda. Beautiful. You'd be great as a finger-free reflexologist. And so I tried this out on my ex-wife just by pressing that knuckle into the sole of her foot. And she hit the roof. And with a tear in her eye, she says, you can't do that on your clients. And that's not the reason she's divorced me, by the way. But it was a case of, I thought, do you know what? I've got something here. And it then took me another 5 years to piece together how to do a whole foot treatment, but without actually using fingers and thumbs. So again, it was just through a process of people talking to me, saying what their problems were. And then I thought, right, okay, let's just see whether we can address this and make reflexology more comfortable, because you don't need to use so much pressure.
No.
Because the point that you're using is so much smaller than your thumb,
Yeah.
but also that's so much harder and bonier than your thumb. And so it's like that analogy of a lady that walks across a wooden floor in stiletto heels. She's putting more pounds per square inch onto that floor than an elephant walking across the same floor, because it's
Yeah.
concentrated. And so that's the same thing with finger free. It's concentrated. So you don't need to press so hard. You're not using articulated joints, and the client feels more. Win-win.
I love that. And so my next question is, I want to hear some of your favorite reflexology stories. Some of the best ones you got. What are some really, really good, juicy reflexology stories?
If this is going to go onto YouTube, I can't tell you that juicy a story, can I? Okay, so here's a this is there's that should never happen to a teacher. I think we'll call this story then. This I'll tell you what, you never primed me for this at all, did you?
I didn't prime you for anything. I didn't even
No,
meet
I
you
got no
before
idea
this.
what we were going to be talking about. So, okay. You'll know that when any reflexologist will know that sometimes when you're working on somebody's feet, you pick things up and the client says, no, there's nothing wrong with me, with whatever area it is that you're working on.
Yeah.
And you're kind of thinking in the back of your head, you're going to, because the feet very often will be showing you things before the client has become symptomatic. So let's just say that's the setting for this story. And I was teaching a bunch of students the urinary system, and I was just working over the bladder reflex, showing them how to do it. And I then said, this reflex, if you work the bladder and if you work the adrenal and you work the spleen, great areas for working if you've got a client that has cystitis. Okay, so just park that one. And the next day, so I teach over a weekend. So that was on a Saturday. Sunday morning, the student that I was demonstrated on comes up to me and she says, "Mr. Wayte," she said, "I want a word." And I'm thinking, oh dear, this doesn't sound very good. So we popped out somewhere private, and she then decided, well, she told me, she says, "You gave me cystitis yesterday." I said, "Pardon? How can I give you cystitis?" And she says, "You were working on my bladder and you gave me cystitis." She said, "And I felt something." I didn't say anything, because we were in the middle of the class. But I could feel that there was something happening on my feet. She says, "And this morning I woke up with cystitis." She was convinced that I had given her cystitis, but actually what it was is that the bacteria were already there.
Yeah.
It's just that she wasn't symptomatic. She didn't have the burning sensation, but the feet never lie. That's one of the best phrases that I always tell my students. The feet never lie. The feet were already giving that response, saying, "Something up here, pay
Yeah.
attention." But she never said anything because she didn't want to in front of the classmates that there was something happening with her bladder. And then sure enough, next day she becomes symptomatic. So the other thing that I would say to anybody watching this, you cannot give anybody anything when giving somebody a reflexology treatment. It's not like you can make them have something. There's a wonderful guy, one of my in fact favorite reflexologists. He's taught me. I've done continuing education with him as well. His name's Tony Porter, and in fact he was one of Dwight Byers' best friends.
Oh, nice.
And Tony Porter started one of his courses with, "Now," he says, "you do know," he says, "you can't kill anybody with reflexology, don't you?" And then he says, "I've tried and it didn't work." So there you go. There's two choicey, juicy stories for you then. So how about that then? Is that okay?
I love it. I love it. I love it. And so, what is the best miracle story you have with reflexology? The biggest healing story you got? Got one?
Yes. And it's a juicy story as well.
I love it. I
It
love
might
juicy
get
stories.
you banned from YouTube, but let's just see how we go.
I'm not scared.
So there was a a client of mine who was wanting to get pregnant. She did do, so that was great. And then she came to me for a treatment. Oh gosh, she must have been, I don't know, 4 or 5 months pregnant at the time.
Yeah.
And she said, basically, she hadn't said anything during the treatment at all. And right almost at the very end, she said, "Oh, by the way," she said, a couple of days ago, she said, "I had to go into hospital to be catheterized." She's because I stopped passing urine." I said, "Okay. So you could have told me earlier and we could perhaps do something to help with this." And she says, "And by the way, I haven't defecated for a week." I said, "Right." I said, "Fine. So there's nothing happening there at all at the moment?" She says, "No, she's all blocked up." I said, "Fine, let's see what we can do." So basically what I did a knuckling technique on her colon. So it's literally a case, if you imagine, go around this way. If you imagine I'm holding the foot here, put your finger around your thumb like this. So you're going to squeeze. That's it. You're going to squeeze. Now, yeah, you want to use that part of your knuckle.
Oh.
No, yeah. Well, you see where you're holding it like that. So you can see now how my knuckle is pointing in towards the imaginary foot.
Yeah, yeah. I got it.
Yeah,
I got it. I got it.
lovely.
I got it.
So I'm squeezing and sweeping up, squeezing and going across,
Yeah.
and then squeezing and going down the descending colon.
Okay.
Anyway, this was right at the end of the treatment, and she didn't have far to go home, literally 5 minutes. And she said, as she got home, she suddenly started feeling the urge. And she said that she kind of got out the car, went to her back door, fumbled in her handbag for the keys, and she said it was like Mount Vesuvius going off. There was no stopping it. She actually didn't make it into her house. Anyway, she said, yes. exactly.
You
So
you
anyway,
you gained a fan in that moment. That's messy. That's not
what
juicy. That's messy, David.
she then threatened to write an endorsement on my website,
Oh
which
no.
read, "David got me pregnant and then made me poo my pants." There you go. That, and that actually, seriously, is how fast reflexology works, particularly on the
Yeah.
colon. One of my graduates, they phoned me up and they said, I've got a baby who hasn't been to poo for quite a few days.
Yeah.
Pee and poo, it's what makes reflexology happen, isn't it? And I said, okay, just dip your fingertip into some olive oil and just trace the colon on the feet. That's all you need to do. Just trace it very, very lightly. And this graduate of mine phoned me back and she says, "You won't believe it." And then she just said one word, "Punami."
The and it's really neat too with babies. It's a sleepy toe, right? If babies don't
Yeah,
sleep, just I call it the sleepy toe. You just
yeah,
hit the pineal gland and
absolutely.
play with
Absolutely.
it.
Yeah. So yeah,
And
there we go. That's
thanks for
juicy
sharing
enough
those. I
stories.
enjoyed those. I like them. And so, okay, so that's fingerless reflexology, and I'm going to get into any upcoming classes that you may have.
Mhm.
But I want to know what got you into the palliative side of things. What inspired that?
Okay, so two reasons. Both of them happened at the same time. Cancer loves my family.
No, very
Everybody in my family has died from cancer. Well, on my father's side, this
yeah,
is.
yeah.
My father died of it. My aunt died of it. My other aunts had it, but she's still a cancer survivor. And I've had cancer.
Oh no, which
So
one? Which one
uh,
did you have?
I had skin cancer, and it was
Okay.
caught very early. It was only a stage 2. So my chances of survival were something like 99%. You're going to
I like
survive
those
it.
numbers.
Yeah, I did too. I did too. But actually, just finding out that it was stage 2 rather than stage 1 even was quite a shock. And then, being told, this is serious and you're going to have to, have quite a chunk taken out of you. And you've got to be on a 5-year follow-up. It does focus the mind. It really, really does. So the course that I teach as well, we have to teach palliative cancer as part of the course.
Okay.
But I was already teaching it as a continual education course. And the thing that I love about palliative is being able to give the best quality of life, something that is allowing people who are doing chemotherapy, radiotherapy, they're on that hamster wheel, and they're not allowed to get off until the doctors and the nurses say they're allowed to get off. And some of the people that I've come across who given palliative to, they say, I am the only non-family and non-medical person that they get to see. There's so many appointments, so many things to do to try to either lengthen their life or to, kill the cancer. That this is that moment that they can just be and be themselves.
Mhm.
Um, so I absolutely love it. It's a privilege to be able to work with people who are in a life-limiting situation.
Mhm.
They are the bravest people in the world, I would say, because they are
I agree.
literally facing death and laughing it in the face because they're making the most of what they've got left.
Mhm.
So no, they're amazing people, absolutely amazing people. And for those people who have been told you've got 3 months to live, and they're going, "This is not fair." The change that can happen through treatments of reflexology is quite amazing. We know that reflexology doesn't just work on the physical, it
Mhm.
works on the emotional as well. So it can really bring around a change, a mindset change about how, yes, I've got three months left. Let's make the most of it.
And I don't know what your experience is, David, with the palliative, but I know that with some that I have worked with, it's we make it a game, actually, is what we do.
Mhm.
And so the doctor gives their diagnosis, and then what happens is you try to extend that, right? So
Yes.
the first step is getting to that number. The next step is how many times can we double it, right?
Yep.
And
Absolutely.
not only that, but the most amazing thing I feel working with palliative patients is our clients is really being able to let them live every
Mm.
day rather than being focused on dying every day,
Yes.
right?
Absolutely.
And when they
Absolutely.
can steal those moments and absolutely enjoy rather than being sick, puking, like not wanting to get out of bed, there's a
Yeah.
difference. There's a
Yes.
big difference. And like you, I've had family as well in cancer, and watching them lay in hospital beds dying
Yeah.
sucks.
Yes. Yes.
Being able to be a part of a client's life where you're actually allowing them to spend quality time
Mm.
and good minutes with eyes open and smiles on their face. There's no
Yeah.
words to describe that. Do
No,
you?
no, absolutely.
Yeah.
One of the stories I tell my students is with my dad, when I was giving him palliative reflexology. He was diagnosed with um, oh, what's the organ that creates insulin? I've just had a
Pancreas.
mind
Pancreatic.
pancreas. Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh,
It's
this is
okay.
it happens to all of us.
It does. The mission
He
isn't to
had
be perfect.
oh gosh. No one's perfect.
No.
Definitely not me, that's for sure.
No.
He was diagnosed with pancreatic cancer. He was given 6 months,
Yeah.
and he literally died 6 months. Um,
Um,
but he was, shall I say, he was only ill, really badly ill, for 3 weeks, right up at the very last.
isn't
That
that
was all.
amazing?
But my mum said at one point, she said, "I'm, I just don't know what to talk to Dad about anymore." She said he just sits there and I can't get to go out because she was looking after him all the time. And there's nothing to talk about. I said, well, I'll tell you what, let me teach you some reflexology and you can do reflexology on him. You don't need to speak. Oh, so anyway, taught her some reflexology. And next time I spoke to mum, she says, David, she says, I've been doing reflexology on your dad. And he spoke to me.
Yeah.
It was a case of, because there wasn't the need to speak and he was relaxing, all of a sudden conversation then flowed again. And so it was lovely. But then there was those times perhaps when he wouldn't speak, but then mum had something that she could do for him, and it enabled her to feel less helpless in the situation.
And I think that's the exact right word, David. Like so many loved ones, they just feel helpless. And
Mm,
being able to feel helpful is
mm,
a healing process for the loved one. But I truly believe that when it comes to the cancer, the person dealing with the cancer, their headspace, it transitions. I don't know what it was like for you, but I know that when I was going through cancer with my dad, I couldn't even relate to people anymore because the things that they felt were important were like, really, you're gonna waste time on that? Like I don't have enough energy. It's not going that far. You know what I
yeah,
mean?
yeah.
And so I can't even imagine what it's like for you. You have been diagnosed with cancer, so you'd be able to relate better than I could, but your headspace, do you feel like your perspective changes? Like, is there something that you think
It did.
kind of shifts?
Yeah. So when I was diagnosed with cancer, I found it very difficult to actually think, right, this is what I'm going to do in the future. I was I was still teaching reflexology all the way through.
Yeah.
Um, all the treatment, everything, the diagnosis. There were a couple of the graduates, not the students, but the graduates that I'd got at the time that knew what I was going through, and they were amazing. They were so supportive. And I didn't actually realize the change in my headspace until after I was told, it's fine, we've got all the cancer, there is none left, you're going to be okay. And all of a sudden I realized kind of how, I think, on pause I'd put things in the way of plans for the future, because I didn't know what was going to happen. So, yeah. But I'm glad to be out the other side of it, that's for sure.
Oh, 100%. And so, when, if what do you tell your students that are going in to work with palliative? What is something that you would recommend that they keep in the back of their head, and so that it supports somebody with palliative if they got it? What
Okay.
do we not say? That's what I'm asking.
Okay.
Yeah.
So actually, one of the things that I do say is, firstly, don't worry if you think you're going to get upset, because actually 9 times out of 10, the people that you meet will actually bring joy to what you're doing. They're wonderful people. So it's not this morose, morbid kind of thing.
No.
It's not at all. They're the most wonderful people, like I was saying earlier.
Yeah.
The other thing as well is that a lot of reflexologists worry that they will be, it'll be too emotional for them. And the last thing that somebody that who is, got terminal cancer, for example, the last thing they want is an autonoman. They want somebody with a heart. They want somebody that feels. So if you're thinking, oh gosh, I'm going to feel too much, doesn't matter. You want that caring attitude. So yeah, that's pretty much what I'll say. If you've got a heart, then you're exactly the right person to do palliative reflexology.
Yeah, and remembering that there's a person around the tumor. They spend enough
Yes,
time focused on the cancer. And
yes.
and I remember going through cancer with my dad, David. It was the most frustrating experience. That's all that they were focused on. They're
Hmm.
they're firing diagnoses without evidence at them all day long. Well, one
Yep.
cancer diagnosis on top of another on top of another isn't easier. Like after you hear the first
No,
one, hearing the second one doesn't make it better.
no, no, not at
And
all.
so many times people are not aware of, they're already in their head. They're already hyper focused on trying to heal. Throwing another dagger in there doesn't help. So just remember that there's a person around. Focus on the person, not the symptom, is I
Yeah,
guess what I think
yeah,
is something to keep in mind when working with them for sure,
indeed.
because they still got a heart too, right? And you don't want to break it.
And the interesting thing is, again, this is I met the lead oncologist of St Bart's and Great Ormond Street Hospital.
Yeah.
Um, I'm in the Royal Society of Medicine, and we both happened to be at the same conference, and we were just having coffee. And he says, my name's Bob. He says, what do you do? I says, I'm a reflexologist. And he says, oh, amazing. And so he's the lead oncologist at these big London hospitals. And he says, I walk into the wards, and he says, no one wants to make eye contact with me. And he said, because they think that if I come along to talk to them, I'm going to be giving them bad news. And he says, I feel like the Grim Reaper sometimes as I walk onto the ward. And then he says to me, he says, you guys come onto my ward and everybody comes alive again. And he actually looked at me straight in the eyes and he said, how do you do it? And I thought that was just great. absolutely great, because we bring back that, those people's heart you were talking about. We've got to remember that they've got a heart, and we bring that back. It's that they're no longer in that merry-go-round of medical intervention after medical intervention, and there is this wrong and there is that wrong. We're able to just break out of it, give them that sort of time out almost, and say, right, now some quality time for you.
Yeah, well, and not only that, but um, I know too, like when I worked with cancer patients, I mean, they come in and they could feel heavy. You can tell because they're all kind of slumped over. They ain't
Yep.
feeling the best. They haven't gone to the bathroom.
Yep.
They're getting the chemo side effects, right? And they spend 60 minutes in your chair, and all of a sudden they're walking out and they're standing tall and they got the smile on their face and you're like,
Absolutely.
hey, I got another
Absolutely.
day.
Yeah. Yeah. They've got their life back. Yeah.
Yeah, in 60 minutes.
Yes.
But they also are fully aware that they have to follow through with the treatment if
Oh
that's their
gosh.
choice, right?
Yes.
So it works out good. Awesome. And so so you had mentioned that you have a school, you're still teaching in the school, right?
Oh yes. Yes.
Jubilee.
Yes.
Great. And so if somebody wanted to take a class,
Mhm.
where would they go to find a class?
Okay. So for practitioners, well, for any of the teaching that I do, just go to www.jubileecollege.com. And it doesn't matter where in England or Ireland that you live, we probably have got a venue near you, because we've got 10 venues that we teach at.
Do you teach anything online?
The so the practitioner's diploma, no, we don't teach that online. We don't believe that, hands-on therapy can be taught without being hands-on.
Well, you
But
can,
as far as,
yeah.
because when people have got no knowledge at all of how to do reflexology, which is how they start with us, you do need to be hands-on. As far as the finger-free reflexology is concerned, I teach that both face-to-face, hands-on, but we've also got an online option as well, which is accredited by, oh gosh, practically every reflexology association in the world.
Okay,
Literally from you guys up in Canada all the way down to Australia as well.
good.
So if I'm not around, if I'm not, sort of in your vicinity, then you can come to us on the online course and
Okay,
learn at your pace and your convenience.
perfect. I like it. So what I'll do is when I post it, I'll make sure in the comments that I put that information, and then
Fabulous.
and then
Thank you.
they can have it. It's good. Well,
Excellent.
thanks so much, David, for spending your time with me today.
No,
And
you're welcome.
it was such a pleasure to meet you. And hopefully one day we can meet in person.
I hope so. You're in Saskatchewan?
Saskatchewan. Yep.
Saskatchewan. Oh dear. Don't put that one in on the YouTube thing then, will you?
I
That'd be
will. I
mispronouncing
don't
it.
edit. It's all good.
Oh gosh. So yeah, no, I would love to meet you in person. That would be great. Where am I? I'm in Vancouver in the spring,
Oh, are
teaching
you?
there. But I've only got the one date. That's all I can fit in, unfortunately.
When
But
is it? Do you know?
sorry, the actual date. Oh gosh, hang on.
And you're doing fingerless reflexology?
Yes,
Okay,
finger-free reflexology. Yeah.
good.
Um, that's all being organised by the British Columbia chapter of the Reflexology Association of Canada.
Great. I
So
like it.
yeah, so there will be announcements. I'm sure there will.
Good. Well, we'll have to watch out for that. Thanks
Fabulous.
again, David.